to another edition of Wine Cocktails 101. We are back with week 3 of season 2 of Wine Cocktails. So if you've never been here before, this is when we kind of zhuzh up our wine. So we're not just drinking plain wine anymore. We're not doing wine tastings anymore. We're trying to jazz it up a little. So welcome to Wine Cocktails 101 in my mother-in-law's kitchen. We are making today, it's called, I was saying it wrong, Wassail. I was saying Wassail all day, but it's Wassail. So we're making this. It's evidently a traditional cidery beverage for the season. So I'll pull up the recipe now. So you'll see the first thing we have to do, well, first you'll see that this is kind of a long, drawn out process, but I think it'll be worth it. So the first thing we're doing is baking the apples. So in case you haven't figured it out yet, this is pre-recorded because I am not wanting to subject you to 2 full hours of a live video of me just cooking. So that's what we're not going to do. So first you need to core a couple of apples. So I've done that. And then you stuff the insides with brown sugar. And then you will fill this with a cup of water and put it in your oven to bake for an hour. So we're going to start there. And while those are baking, we'll do the other things. So I'll get right back after I put these in the oven. Okay, apples are going in. So while those cook for an hour, we're gonna put the base together because the apples are kind of like a late add kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a garnish. But you do want some of the juices too. So it's a little bit of both. But what you'll need for the main portion is a few spices. So you'll need allspice, ginger, nutmeg, some whole cloves. So I have 6 whole cloves, a couple cinnamon sticks, 2 of those. You'll need a ½ teaspoon measuring spoon. You need a measuring cup, just a cup. Measuring cup is enough. I have 2 cans of ghost pig. I think that'll be plenty. On the recipe, I put 1/3 of a bottle, but I think a couple cans is close enough. You'll need some apple cider, so I have a little bit of that, and we'll measure that out later. 1 can of ale, which just means like a plain beer, so I have Bud Light. And then we also need 1/3 of a cup of port, so Amanda has graciously donated the last of this port for us to consume, and the wassail. So I'm going to move you over so that you guys can see what I'm doing while we're doing it. But you'll see that we're first starting with toasting the allspice, the cloves, and the cinnamon sticks for a couple minutes over medium-high heat. And then we're going to add everything else in and let it just cook for an hour. So I'll move you over and then you'll see what I'm doing. Okay, now we are moved over to the stovetop. So again, we're going to start with the allspice, the cloves, and the cinnamon. And we're just going to toast them for a little bit. So it says medium-high heat. In my experience, I would say I'd want it maybe a little bit lower. So maybe don't go for the medium-high heat. Maybe keep it medium, I think feels a little safer. So we need about a ½ teaspoon of the allspice. And now if you have like allspice berries, you can sure just use those. That's fine. But we have ground allspice, so that's what we're using. So you're putting in the allspice berries and the cloves and the cinnamon. I'm just going to toast these up. So if you're watching live, you probably have guessed by now that this is pre-recorded because this was a long one. So I'm probably going to speed up some bits here and there, just so you don't have to sit and watch. But I'm going to have a sip of coffee because it's the afternoon. What are you cool kittens up to? Who's been making the wine cocktails? And who watching? I am watching the comment section now. Who Watching made our last two wine cocktails. So we had the hot chocolate with Frontenac, which I thought was delicious, and then the pomegranate fizz, or was it? Yeah, it was pomegranate fizz, right? Or rosewater fizz, that's right. But it had pomegranate juice and pomegranate seeds, and that was delicious too. So if you are making those, good on ya. So this is starting to become a little fragrant, and I think that's about the time. So we're just toasting it a little. We just want to start getting the aromas out. You do not want to go too far, because otherwise you're going to scorch everything. So I think we're going to start putting in the liquid soon. So next up, right, we're doing port, so maybe we should just measure that out. I need a 1/3 cup of port, right? Yeah, 1/3 cup of port. So might as well get it ready. Perfect. It's the perfect amount. Woo! Okay, so we've got a 1/3 cup of port ready to go. Yeah, okay. So now we're going to toss that in. Okay, so 1/3 cup port, and then we need a 1/3 cup of the cider. So we'll do that too. So this is just regular cider. That's not hard cider. And if you just have apple juice, that's okay too, because we're already spicing it, so it's going to be fancy anyway. Okay, and next we need nutmeg and ginger. So our nutmeg is 1 teaspoon. So I've got a 1/2 teaspoon measure here, so I gotta do 2 scoops. 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/2 tablespoon of ginger. I forgot to bring that measuring thing. Okay, so 1/2 tablespoon of ginger. This ginger isn't even open yet. So we'll do a 1/2 teaspoon of this. Oh, it's a little clumpy. Okay, no problem. Okay, so we've got 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, and then we put in our beer. You could put your heat on medium-high by now, I think. So we put 1 can of ale, so any beer. And then we're doing Ghost Pig, and I said 1/3 of a bottle, which is 750 milliliter. And this is a can, 355. Oh, I only need 1 can of this. Yeah, okay, so just 1 can of Ghost Pig would do, yeah. So it's a 1-to-1. That's weird. Oh, no, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. So 1-to-1. 1 can of Ghost Pig, 1 can of Bud Light. And then the orange peels. So I'm going to go get those, and I'll be right back. I'm just going to peel the mandarins into this, because, you know, we'll be careful. So once you get all of those things in here, we're going to get our heat down to medium, well, around medium-high. And then we're simmering. So if you notice it's like boiling, you'll want to turn it down and just keep it at a simmer. So we're just going for like a warmed beverage, so if you boil it for too long, you're going to boil off the alcohol. So don't do that. This won't be an aperitif anymore. It'll just be juice. So don't do that. So we're going to let it simmer for an hour, and then by the time this is done, the apples should be done, and we can put those in together, and we will have our wassail or wassail, however you want to say it. So I got 1 more orange to go in here. It smells really good. And let the kids eat the oranges. And you want to obviously give everything a stir once you've got everything in there, just to kind of blend it up, because I've got like, I'll let you see. I've got some of the spices are up on the edge, so you'll want to rectify that mistake. I'm just going to use this. I'm just going to use my little tablespoon measure. So just get it nice and stirred up. Make sure everything is dissolved, and get it to simmer for an hour. So I'll meet you back here in an hour. We're back. So we've got a few more minutes left for the apples and the brown sugar to finish everything up. So while we're waiting, let's go ahead and prep for next week. So next week we are making a coupe de ville, and for that we need pear infused vodka. We'll also need blanc de blanc, but we need to make pear infused vodka. So we also need pear syrup. So get yourself a can of canned pears and keep the syrup, and get a jar with a lid, and then just some vodka. Don't need anything special. So all you're going to do is put a couple of the pears in there. So I've got my fork. So put a couple of your pears into the jar. I would say just kind of coat the bottom. The more the merrier. It's not going to hurt anything. It's just going to really give it a good flavor. So I put 4 pieces in, which I think is fine. And then I'm just going to save this for next week because we'll need that too. So then just dump some vodka so that it's submerged. We don't need a lot of this. So if you're really into pear vodka, then like you'll have some extra, or you can make a couple drinks. But you really just need a little bit. Okay, so that's for next week, pear infused vodka. Just leave it out on your countertop. It's not going to go bad by the time next week comes around. But I do think if you're not going to use it all at once, you probably want to refrigerate it, just because the pears. Or you could take the pears out, and it might last a little longer. But I would refrigerate it. Okay, so now we are going to take from our pan of Wassail, or Wassail, however you want, and we're going to ladle it into our cup through the strainer, just in case there's any bits and pieces. Okay, so this is going to be a process. I'm trying to go around everything. So this is meant to be like a really seasonal fall beverage that you can just warm up with. It is colder now, so this is a perfect little aperitif. Again, like I said, we warmed it up, so it probably has lost some of the alcohol, but there was port, beer, cider. This would be a nice little aperitif. And then it just has some regular cider. I will say, while I was waiting for everything to warm, I put in a little extra brown sugar. I did a little taste test, and I just thought that I wanted it a little more sweet. So I added a little brown sugar. So here we've got our nice Wassail. It smells delightful. You get a little cinnamon, the apples. It's really good. It's delicious. Yeah, so good. You do need a little bit of brown sugar that comes from the apples. You want the appley flavor, but I do think adding a little extra brown sugar was worth it. So yeah, it's delicious. Highly recommend. It takes a little while, but it's totally worth it. And then I think you can just turn it on low and leave it on your stovetop until you want another cup, or just share it with friends. So tune in next week, and we will make the coupe de ville with our pear infused vodka and blanc de blanc. See you next week.